Right guys, what's up? So we are out in Santos today. We have a chest and back session coming up. Currently sitting now just under 3 weeks out from my first show, and then it'll be another 2 weeks after, and then another 3 weeks after that. So a little under 3, 5 and 7 weeks out. So getting into the nitty gritty now. This is just kind of running on steam and stims. But yeah, session today is chest and back one. A few different bits of equipment, so we're going to go through it. Bit of a synopsis as to why we're doing different movements, intricacies with each setup and considerations. But overall, just get through a good session and keep the work going for the rest of this prep.
Look, tell a man no trouble, I don't want beef, man, I just want vibes. Big man like me, no need for the telephone hype. I got too much getting online. One rule, then dead I'm on site. Wrong move, I bet they gon' ride. No need for the telephone hype, nah. No need for the snoozing. Big whip outside, I'm cruising. Big stick inside, no losing. Better watch out for the snake and Judas is. Don't ask them who this is. I bet they know what I'm moving in. I bet I show it into a dim. How you hate and then lose again? How you hating my vibes? Why you wasting my time?
So when we're setting up a dumbbell row, you want to allow some movement of scapula, of your shoulder blade, just to kind of promote full range challenge towards the lats. If we're just kind of locking into a single position, we're not really going to be able to train through a full contractile range. So what I like to do is kind of go split stance or contralaterally loaded. So basically left foot forward with your right hand and allow that kind of rotation. Once you kind of promote that, emphasize range of motion and that rotation of the scapula, then you can maybe switch this up to the ipsilateral, so loading the same side and getting the lat fully short. You have more stability, more capacity to brace, more capacity for output.
Feel when leave me your eye that I'm keeping it true. The man them a while that I'm keeping it cool. No need for the telephone hype from you. Yeah, tell a man no trouble, I don't want beef, man, I just want vibes. Big man like me, no need for the telephone hype. I got too much getting online. One rule, then dead I'm on site. Wrong move, I bet they gon' ride. No need for the telephone hype, yeah. Tell a man no trouble, I don't want beef, man, I just want vibes. Big man like me, no need for the telephone hype. I got too much getting online. One rule, then dead I'm on site.
With this prime incline press, the reason we're going to use this is, as you can see, we have different loading pins. They allow us to kind of adjust our resistance profile to match our strength profile. Basically, we just want to make it heavy when we're strong and light when we're weak, so that we get like an even challenge throughout the full rep. It's not to make things easier, it's to make things more efficient, to basically make them harder throughout the full rep. Same thing as reverse banding and banding, which is often bastardized, people using it out of context. But it's a really nice bit of kit, because you can see a slight kind of convergence. So basically the angles here, as you press, your arms come together. That's going to allow you to get the pec into the lengthened range and to shortened range. Whereas if we're just going with a fixed bar from here to here, we're not going to get the pec fully short because it crosses over. So it's kind of an incorporation of a press and almost a fly as your humerus comes towards that midline.
Need for the telephone hype, yeah. Yeah. Tell a man no trouble, I don't want beef, man, I just want vibes. Big man like me, no need for the telephone hype. I got too much getting online. One rule, then dead I'm on site. Wrong move, I bet they gon' ride. No need for the telephone hype, nah.
So this setup here is probably pretty similar to what we want. We see people often overemphasizing the difference between loading things 1, 2 and 3. Basically, as this one comes up, it's going to start coming into effect because it has more of a vertical kind of displacement. Whereas at the bottom, as it moves around this arc, it's going kind of horizontally. So kind of like from 3 o'clock, if we could superimpose a clock going around this axis, 3 o'clock and 9 o'clock are heavier clock. So they're going more vertical, whereas down here, near 6 o'clock, there's not much challenge. So as we press up, this is going to start to come into effect. And we only want it maybe 10 to 15% heavier. That kind of matches the strength profile of chest.
Yeah. Alright. Son of Augustine style, you get me? Yeah. New whip outside is different. Ask me where to cop it, mind your business. New whip outside, I'm vicious. Ask me where to cop it, I'll admit it. Can't you tell that I'm riding with it? 5 or 6, I can't find those digits. Line them up and say mind your business.
So at this stage in prep, it's literally just about getting through the set. Do your set, take the rest time prescribed, because your strength is going to drop off very quick. Pump is going to drop off very quick. You'll get it for the first maybe few sets, maybe first few movements, and then it's just about kind of going through the motions. Obviously there's things we can do to combat this in terms of electrolyte and fluid intake, nutrient timing, but essentially at the latter ends of prep, your training isn't going to feel right. It's not going to feel very enjoyable, but you just need to remember what built the tissue, what put the muscle mass there is what's going to keep it. So you need to make sure you don't drop off intensity too much. Oftentimes people will just go trying to chase that pump excessively, drop sets, strip sets, supersets, all this metabolic training and styles of training that just accumulates more fatigue. And your recovery capacity is already in the bin. So there's no point doing additional work when you're struggling to recover from what you're already doing. So keep intensity as high as possible and drop the sets off as needed based off your recoverable volume, which you'll know, and your coach will know based off feedback and how the physique's looking.
With it, 5 or 6, I can't find those digits. Line them up and say mind your business. Don't you know that I'm riding with it? I'm riding with it. You can't see the size, ain't norm. I ain't reached my final form. I gotta teach inside the storm. I gotta reach inside it. No, I don't need beside him. By and large, I don't preach no violence. Wifey right beside him. I am calm, I am different. I enlisted, fired up but not find the mischief. I am one to find time and listen. Lighten up the entire district. I am one to take time and find it. If they hate, they can't ride beside us. New whip, this time we ride it. All my people know out of towners. Yeah. New whip outside is different. Ask me where to cop it, mind your business.
So, sideways machine, very hit or miss, but this one actually is really nice for me anyway. Main things you want to consider is like we actually have these points marked here in terms of the axis that it spins around, but you can always kind of eyeball these based off like the actual metal bars and where is the fixed point. You want to line that up with the point of your body that is rotating around, so in this case shoulder. So set the seat height accordingly. Usually a little bit of internal rotation, so bringing your palms slightly overhand as if your thumbs are pointing towards each other. Allows us to kind of bias the lateral delt a little bit more. And again, focus on keeping that rib cage tucked down, very stable upper body. And then when you're going through it, again, just create and maintain that position, very stable. Abduct up away without struggling, okay? So we're not trying to like just get it up at all costs. We're trying to minimize any involvement from our traps. So obviously there will be a slight shrug to allow that scapula to move, but once you're feeling it more in your traps than your delts, it's set done, it's game over. So keep the intent where it needs to be. Another thing for consideration is like, where does this fall within your session architecture? If your lateral delts are a lagging body part, which they probably is for a lot of people, it doesn't make sense to just tag them on at the end. Same way when we have like biceps or triceps at the end of a movement, at the end of a session. If we're doing that with a high level of fatigue, like your ability to create or produce a lot of force and to create a meaningful challenge is going to be diminished because you're carrying fatigue. So yes, we want to think like, right, architecture-wise, what are the main movements we need to prioritize from a biomechanical standpoint, but then also practically, like, what is the needs analysis for your physique? If you need to bring up your lateral delts, your buys, your tries, whatever it is, don't just do them last.
Vicious. Ask me where to cop it, I'll admit it. Can't you tell that I'm riding with it? 5 or 6, I can't find those digits. Line them up and say mind your business. Don't you know that my mind is different? Can't you tell that I'm riding with it? 5 or 6, I can't find those digits. Line them up and say mind your business. Don't you know that I'm riding with it?
So something that me and Chris were actually talking about there was kind of like on prep and the energy that you just don't want to waste and don't want to expend, like turns out to be in like facial expressions. And we need to remember, like, we still do enjoy this stuff, and even if you don't have the energy to express that facially, it's important to kind of voice that, because that's what gets people concerned when they're asking, oh, is everything okay? You look unhappy. It's like, yeah, I'm actually really happy. I don't have the energy to expend on facial expressions. Just thought it was a funny point to bring up.
Don't you know that we timeless? That team we caught, can't hide it. That team we drop, can't find it. That new car drop, we ride it. Pull up, park up right beside a full-time rapper. Check my mileage. I gotta move the minus. I got a new allowance. Another one, King B. They say I done enough, they can't see. I'm not a runner-up who can't breathe. I'm still the son of what? Of Augustine. How I keep coming up and then erupting. Looking like I should never be amongst them. I should be out there in the function. Young and free. The end of discussion. Whoa. The end of discussion. Whoa. Young and free. The end of discussion. Whoa. The end of discussion. Whoa. Yeah. New whip outside is different. Ask me where to cup it, mind your business. New whip outside, I'm vicious.
Machine fly up next, and when you're in a new gym, in any environment, like even in your regular gym on a day-to-day basis, take your time, like get familiar with your equipment, with the setup, and yeah, understand the fact that like no one is actually pressuring you or rushing you to finish up with that bit of equipment. You pay a day pass, you pay membership, same as anyone else. You're entitled to your time. Don't rush into movements. Chris has seen me adjust the setup on pretty much every machine here 2 or 3 times before I get into my warm-up sets. Yeah, next we have a machine fly finishing off, motion pec volume. Main thing is just keeping that arm nice and straight, driving that horizontal abduction straight towards the midline of the pec, and avoiding your bicep coming involved. Keeping your back braced against the pad, chest upright, and keeping the rib cage tucked down. Okay, so a lot of times people start to flare up here like this and try to get more involvement from like the costal fibers, the lower fibers of the pec, maybe some influence from your obliques, your serratus. Keep it all in the pec, rib cage tucked down, midsection brace, horizontal abduction, not more, not less.
Ask me where to cup it, mind your business. New whip outside, I'm vicious. Ask me where to cup it, I'll admit it. Can't you tell that I'm riding with it? 5 or 6, I can't find those digits. Line them up and say mind your business. Don't you know that my mind is different? Can't you tell that I'm riding with it? 5 or 6, I can't find those digits. Line them up and say mind your business. Don't you know that I'm riding with it?
So training the abs, we actually don't need many, especially if you're doing the other movements correctly and you're orientating your rib cage relative to your pelvis in a controlled manner. Because that's obviously that's the main function of rectus abdominis, your midsection, your core. It's spinal flexion, not hip flexion. So typically what you'll see people do is this kind of crunch, and it's more like just sitting down into hip flexion. That's not what we're trying to do. What we're trying to do is spinal extension. So arch in the back, chest up high, stick your belly button out forward, and then do the inverse of that, round your back, and kind of make a C shape out of your spine. So you're trying to think about rounding your back, sending your belly button behind you in the room, and then as you come up, pushing that forward. And it's that kind of orientation from here to here that's actually going to train the rectus abdominis itself. Otherwise, it's just more so hip flexors, and no one cares about your hip flexors.
Reckless talk. Son of a Justin. Hey, reckless talk, but I got expensive habits. Don't step in salt. I'm a real one, check my fabric. Hey, I said reckless talk, but I got expensive habits. Don't step in salt. I'm a real one, check my fabric. Look at my fabric, out of this atlas, I point way up. I got a passion mixed with action, boy, don't play. Look at my fabric, out of this atlas, I point way up. I got a passion mixed with action, boy, don't play. my fabric way up, mixed with action, play us. Out of this Atlas, way up. I got a passion, yeah, play us. I got a passion, full static, ready on go. Don't let it unfold. Beast mode, if you're ready, let's roll. Feeling like this, you never get in my zone. That's me, man, I'm still on my own. Man, we ain't one of the same, one of the ways I do this.
Right guys, so that is our chest and back session wrapped up 3 weeks out. It's how a session feels at 3 weeks out. Just kind of going through the motions as we were talking about earlier. Going through the motions I use loosely because I still want to bring as much intensity as possible. But essentially it's not all going to be there. You just need to make sure you get the work done. Volumes are starting to come down now to allow for recovery with the reduced food intake, higher cardio output. But yeah, that's pretty much the plan now for these next few weeks, is to slowly pull training down so that we're actually going into the show relatively fresh. If you're carrying a lot of fatigue, your ability to actually like fill out and hold carbs and like have that dry look is going to be pretty diminished, because you're going to be carrying extracellular fluid based off high creatine kinase levels, all this shit you don't really need to know about. But just understand that like a physiologically fresher physique is apparent on stage. That will show in terms of the ones who are digging till the very, very end and don't have time permitted to kind of allow some of that to subside. You'll be able to tell that on stage. Obviously, condition dependent, that is the number one goal. If you're not conditioned, you have to keep digging, which we might have to do for this first show. 3 weeks out, there's still a lot of work to be done here in terms of fat loss, but the shows thereafter will probably be able to pull back slightly in terms of the aggressiveness with the approach and hold a fuller, fresher look on stage, which is the goal. So yeah, that's pretty much it. Just got to keep the head down, keep working, keep ticking boxes, day in, day out. And that's all there is to it.